Good afternoon, Fred.
Okay, good afternoon. I'll leave you the floor in a few seconds.
Sure.
It was so inspiring, and it's not finished. Another roundtable as inspired as the others.
I do agree.
So
it's not easy to come after you guys,
it's
but
going
we'll
to be
do
all
our
right. I
best.
trust you around that. Okay, 45 minutes and then 50 minutes Q&A session.
Yeah. So are we connecting? Because I guess. All right. So I'm going to introduce. Maybe I have one guest which is here. I hope. Yes. Thank you. So I'm very happy to welcome. Let me check your name. Sorry, Pierre-Yves Caloche. Thank you, Pierre-Yves, to be here with us today. So Pierre-Yves is Chief Digital Officer of Pernod Ricard, and happy to welcome you. I think you have been going through a huge international career, and since a while working on the digital transformation of Pernod Ricard. So very happy about that. Please have a seat. So off-site, I'm very happy to welcome, I see David Jones. How are you, David?
I'm very well. How are you?
We are very good, and thank you for joining this working session. So David is founder and CEO of the BrandTech Group. BrandTech Group is a fantastic tech company. This company helps global brands to go in their marketing cheaper, faster, better. And this company has been awarded in 21 by various prizes, such as one of the most innovative company in 21. I'm very pleased also to welcome Philippe. Philippe, how are you? We can't hear you, but it's coming in 1 minute.
Yeah, sorry. Very well, thank you. Talking to you and being here with you from the north of France through Teams.
Exactly. So probably the headquarters of La Redoute. So Philippe is the CEO of La Redoute, having gone through a big journey in terms of transition, I guess, from what we call in France vente par correspondance when I was young, to a real e-retailer. And I hope that I'm able also to welcome in this group Vanessa Lyon. No, the sign is clear. Vanessa is not able to make it. She will call a little bit later. So this working group is probably the most interested among the three, sorry, because we are talking about one of the topics which is extremely important to me, corporates facing this tech transition. And it's probably why, with Patrick, we decided 1 year ago to create this tech hub. How we can help, how we can support this technological transition for our clients, for our historical clients, for corporates. So I will go directly with the various questions that we have been prepared, and starting with the first one, it's about fast and speed. And I will start probably with you. I would say a lot have been already sorted in terms of corporate facing the technological evolution or revolution. What can we do to go even faster? And do we need, by the way, to go faster right now? Please.
So for us in Pernod Ricard, in our experience, so as most of you know, we are a wine and spirits company, so quite a traditional business in that sense. For me, the first thing which is really important is to prioritize where we are investing, because it's easy, and we've done it also, to launch a number of proof of concept that stays on the laptop of a data scientist somewhere, or to launch new businesses which are not profitable. There's no easier thing than to launch a non-profitable business. And so the fact of prioritizing based on the return on investment is key. And this is what we've done in Pernod Ricard, for example. So we reviewed again our digital strategy 2.5 years ago. And we decided, for example, for the usage of artificial intelligence to focus only on 3 projects. To give you some examples, so one of them is to optimize the time of our sales force. We have more than 5,000 people which are visiting point of sales around the world. And so we decided to, for the first project to deliver to them a digital assistant that will tell them every Monday, these are the points of sales where you will have the most impact this week, based on a lot of data that we get about people living around, the promotions which are happening, etc. And we have launched 2 other programs, also on artificial intelligence, which are optimizing our marketing investments. For example, in one country like Germany, between the different brands we're having in the country, and for what brands is it better to invest in TV, digital media, or out-of-home publications? And so that's just some, 2 of the 3 examples that we've launched. So the first one is prioritization, and we've done this based on the initially potential return investment and the actual that we are measuring along the way. So that's for me number 1. The number 2 subject is to find the right talents, because where you're investing in technology, especially when it's impacting your strategy, you want to own part of it or all of it, and finding the right talents is key. Good news when you're in France is that we find actually really good talent. Initially, for example, to ramp up our teams, we were thinking of having about 60% of our talents in France, where we have the corporate, and some talents in US, China, India. At the end of the day, we are more at 75% of talents in France, not only because we have a better value proposition for being a French company, but also we have really good talents. For example, the test that we make for data scientists, we have 85% rate of success on the pre-test we do in the recruitment in France. It drops to 35% in the US or 60% in India or China. So we have really good talents, and that's for me the second part that we need. And the third part, just to conclude, is we need to have all the top management involved in bringing those technologies inside, because without the sponsorship, you don't get the speed. Those new projects require a number of people, so you get on those projects at least 20, 25 people from each of the affiliates where we are deploying. And if it's not the top 1 or top 2 priority of the affiliate, the projects will last 2, 3 times, 4 times longer, because you need somebody from finance, from marketing, from sales to be working at the same time, and they are super busy. So getting them together on the projects means there's a need for priority. Who gives the priority? It's the top management. So that would be, for me, the 3 things that need to implement in a corporate to get the speed which is necessary.
Thank you, Pierre. Very clear. I take the opportunity to welcome Vanessa Lyon, who is general manager, general partner and managing director at BCG, and used to work before at L'Oréal, if I'm not wrong. Welcome. It looks to me very familiar in terms of office. I guess you are at Natixis. Welcome to Natixis America. So to transition, and before coming back to you, Vanessa, you were talking about tone from the top. Philippe, what do you think? In your fantastic journey that have been done with La Redoute on the last 10 years, what do you think about tone should come from the top to succeed in this evolution?
Yeah, for us, you know, the purpose of this transition was very simple. It was to survive as a company. So the tune is already done by the context. We were facing a disruption on our market because we were involved in a quite traditional business, which was we used to be a mail order company. We are a very old company, 180 years, that has been transformed through all this journey, this global journey, by far, because this company started as a sewing company, producing wool. So it's very, very, very old company, already transformed a lot of times. So now, for the last 10 years, we faced a disruption regarding our mail order company position that we used to have. Obviously, tech was part of the reason of this disruption, and the expansion of retail with huge network in small and big and small cities was the other reason of our disruption on our market. So there was for us the only question was to survive, and the tune came obviously from the head. It was a question of tech. What we experienced through these 10 years is maybe that what we did is it was more than a tech transformation. We used tech, but basically we had to transform everything. It was quite a holistic transformation. We had to change our product ranges, about design, about cost, about pricing. We had to change to transform our services to the customer. We had to change basically the customer journey as an experience and the branding. So quite a lot of things, quite everything. And as you can imagine, we had to turn from paper to digital. We had to turn from mail order to phygital. So big things to achieve. Basically, I would say that what we experienced through this transformation is that beforehand, I think that tech was enabling us to process the business. Basically, it was an enabler. Now it's not only an enabler. We are still relying a lot on technology, obviously, as an e-retailer, but tech is now a way to create the difference. Beforehand, we did not create the difference through technologies. We created the difference. We used to create the difference through our design of our own products and the services, which was more relying on logistics abilities. Now, it's the way you are operating your checkout. It's the way you are targeting your customers through MarTech. So a lot of things that is relying obviously on tech, and this is what we experience through this journey. So now, okay, we saved the company. We are in a much more solid position, but it is the beginning of another journey to keep the position to be competitive in this tech competition, basically.
Thank you, Philippe. So disruption, main of the reason of how to move fast. David, what is your view?
On disruption?
Not yet on disruption. We will come back to you to you on disruption later on. Do we need to move fast? And by the way, who is the real responsible for this digital transformation?
So look, I would say two things. I think if you'd have asked me this question pre-COVID, I would have told you that I thought businesses were moving really slowly. And I think the speed with which, because basically what happened during COVID is everyone got disrupted. And the speed with which major global companies, changed overnight was remarkable. And I think it's been an unbelievable accelerator. There was that great cartoon which said, who led your digital transformation? Was it the CEO, the CTO, or COVID-19? And I think everybody would have to acknowledge that it was COVID-19. So I think at a big picture level, it's that we're actually in a much better place today than we were pre-COVID. When it comes to who's responsible, I think honestly, what the CEO needs to do is to empower the CTO and the CDO. I think in those companies that have done brilliantly in their digital transformation, the CEO basically empowered the chief technology officer and the chief digital officer. One great example of that, Lubomira Roche, superstar chief digital officer, she was given enormous support to drive change in L'Oréal by Jean-Paul Agon. And I think where you see it not working is where everyone kind of views the chief digital officer as that kind of person who's playing around with the metaverse and can be ignored.
Thank you, David. We'll come back to metaverse a little bit later on if we have time, because you guys have a lot to say, I can say. Let's move to the second question regarding how those corporates can face this transition. Usually, or sometimes, we're talking about partnering. Vanessa, I would like to hear from you how we can help corporates to move and to enter into this digital transformation or to succeed into this digital transformation.
Well, I think I like the word of partnering because I think, what's been said earlier, it's all about the acquisition of a source of sustainable competitive advantage. And there is a need to build up internal capability, be it the talent, but also be it the infrastructure. And what we see in the industry is that there is this big race of what one would call upskilling, which is a big challenge. Like, do we Do we train our people? Do we recruit them? How do we recruit them at speed? I'm very happy that Pernod Ricard found the right talent pool in France. We have to acknowledge that many of the Western world countries, and especially in Europe, we know there are going to be talent pool shortages. And I'm a believer that this is all learning by doing. So how can you create a context where you bring in a partner that's going to teach your teams to be able to fly solo? I think is one big challenges of the partnerships you want to develop moving forward. And then with regards to the more infrastructure type of assets, we see lots of investments around the digital twin, broadly speaking. So that's an old concept, but I believe it's going to be revived because the moment you invest in your data backbones, you can really think about your digital product first. And then just make sure your physical product is an instantiation of this digital product. And in some industries, it's opening the door to last mile 3D printing, for example, which creates a total shift in the current asset base and where we need to put the investments. So thereby, with David, it requires a proper empowerment of the chief digital officer for them to be able to drive those investments. And I think, Alain, this is where there will be a need for partnerships because it's absolutely massive.
Thank you, Vanessa. So Pierre-Yves, you found the right people, the good talent, but how can we help corporates to support this acceleration?
Yeah, so partnering is key. First, because we don't have all the skills internally. And so we are moving more in terms of relationship first with the providers or services. And we've been working with BCG or the team of David Jones. So it's funny to have the two providers here to bring up and to level up our resources internally. So when we say partnership, it's not just I'm saying this is a specification of what I want. I get it in terms of in exchange for money. We actually co-build more and more with providers or services. So we've built digital marketing capabilities with the teams of David Jones, which are half internal, half external. With BCG, we've worked on how we ramp up our teams progressively. So that's the number one type of partnerships that we need is with the service providers. The second one, which is more and more necessary, is that sometimes, and most of the time actually, we are too small to do some things. So, for example, in terms of developing new technologies, we've developed a new, what we call data portal internally to gather all the data, track where it's coming from, etc. And there was no solution on the market. And we've announced recently, we're actually partnering with JC Deco, an outdoor advertising company, and we are co-investing in that development, and so co-using the solution, which is good because we get their requirements, our requirements, new technology which is built. The other example of partnering with other big companies is that in some business cases, we are also too small. So, for example, we have developed an application for small bars, small moms and pop shops to place an order to their favorite wholesalers. So not to us directly, it's not direct to them, but to their wholesalers. And that platform of intermediation, for them, we are sometimes 3%, 5%, maximum 10% of the turnover of the small shops. And so we had to move forward in partnership with other companies. So, for example, we are working with Heineken, which is not a direct competitor, but close, to go together to develop the technology, but also going to the market, recruiting those bars to move on the platform. So working with other FMCG company is key for us. And finally, there's of course the partnerships with startups, which bring new ways of working, innovative solutions. And here, so we have two things. First, we have a corporate fund which is investing in some startups which are close to our business, and it's working quite well. And also doing joint ventures. So we've created recently a joint venture which is called the Experience Distillery, which is creating experiences for consumers. So you can have a boat trip in Paris, Bordeaux, or in Rio, for example, or we've starting to organize concerts. We had one 15 days ago with 30,000 people gathering in a stadium, and it's organized by a joint venture we have created with a startup called Fever, which is a marketplace of events. You might know them from a candlelight concert. If you are target on your cell phone, you can check. So they are really good. So that kind of joint venture is bringing us technology, data, ways of working. And for me, that's the third type of partnerships that we need more and more to develop as corporate companies if we want to move fast, but also into new territories.
Partnering, what else, David?
Yeah, I think two things. I mean, I think the first one, no matter who you are, even if you're Apple, there are way more smart people who work for someone else than for you. And I think I'm a huge believer in open collaborative models. In fact, when I created the company, the logo is an ampersand, and that comes from the belief that open collaborative models are much better than closed ones. And as Pierre says, actually having genuine partnerships, I think often there can be, client-supplier relationships, and you'll never get the best out of someone in those situations. And with the in-house studios we've built with Pernod Ricard, like we're both parents of them. It's similar with we work on 375 brands globally for Unilever. We created and built the U Studio, but we built it with Unilever. So it sits inside Unilever, and Unilever think they're a parent, and we think we're a parent, and it's a really genuine partnership. So I think going beyond the kind of superficial and actually getting into genuine partnerships.
Thank you, David. Maybe on this thematics, acceleration means money. Philippe?
Yeah, we need money. That's why you obviously need to partnering basically. And for on our own, what I can say is that this is a learning of this last 10 years journey. I mean, we used to be a very closed company. I mean, we used to develop everything by ourselves in IT or in logistics solution or in CRM. It is part of a history. We were pioneers at the beginning, so it was part of our DNA to develop everything by ourselves. So these last 10 years, we had a lot of learnings about partnering because we had absolutely no money to do it, to continue to do it by ourselves. So we had to open the box and to choose our battles because as it has been said already, obviously we have not the means, and especially in the situation we were in 10 years ago, we did not have the money to invest in each, I would say, part of the value chain creation, obviously. So we had to choose our battle. This may be one way of partnering. You need to have a tech strategy to choose where you have to develop your own solutions, and even in this case, to find the good partners to develop your own solution, as Pierre mentioned it before. And on the other part of your value chain creation, you have to buy solutions. So it's a question of make or buy strategy, and it's very important to have a clear vision on that and to invest, especially where you can make the difference through strategy, buy a proper solution. This is when you don't have money, and we did not have any money. This is the only way to proceed and to try to have a positive step forward, basically.
Thank you, Philippe. So, Philippe, you survived, if I may say so, because of disruption. David mentioned disruption, so my third thematics will be about disruption. How corporates can face and how they will face the disruption which came in some sectors 10 years ago and which are coming in other sectors today. I will start with you, Dave.
Yeah, look, so I think, and I spent my gardening leave year before I launched my company doing some lecturing at Harvard with a guy called Mike Tushman, who's the professor of disruption. And he starts his presentation with a slide that has, 50 logos on, and they were once market leaders and big companies in high growth sectors, and they don't exist anymore. And I think, disruption is one of the laws of business physics. Everybody got disrupted by COVID. But even disruptors get disrupted. And my favorite example of that is Netflix. I mean, for 10, 15 years, everyone thought they were complete geniuses. They were in a category of their own. And then suddenly along come Apple and Disney and HBO and Peacock. And they're in the most competitive sector in the world today. But I think the reason, what's interesting about it is people don't get disrupted because they're bad. They actually get disrupted because they're doing what they should be doing. They're focusing on these giant business opportunities that they're making a lot of money doing. And I was the global CEO of Havas. I was trying to change Havas and I was failing. I'm obviously not as good as Philippe nor as patient. And we built a company in 5 years that's more valuable than Havas, that's biggest global digital partner for many of the largest companies in the world. That shouldn't be possible. But the reason it's possible is I was going along to all my big ad agencies and saying, look, it's all about tech and digital and we got to change. They're like, David, we're having an amazing year. We're brilliant at making TV commercials. That's what our clients want. So why would we possibly go and do this little thing? Whereas if you're an entrepreneur, you can start building a little business in that little thing. And what happens one day is that little thing becomes very big. And it's actually too late, to then pivot and change. And I think, my kind of key learning would be, and there's actually a best-selling Harvard Business School case study called Havas Change Faster, which doesn't end with me leading the change. It ends with me leaving to build it elsewhere. But I think if you don't kill your legacy business, someone else is going to do that. And what I would say is one of the best exercises, because if you talk to people about what you can do as a business, we all know our businesses too well. We will say all of the reasons why that's not possible, why we tried that 5 years ago. And if you literally sit down and say, okay, let's build the company that's going to disrupt our company. Now let's look at that and what are all the things that we can steal and use and build into our business. I mean, what keeps me up at night now, we built the best Web 2 digital marketing company. It's not going to be about Web 2. It's going to be about Web 3. And I don't want to be kind of sitting there going, well, we built the best one yesterday, but the world's moved on. So be obsessive about how your business is going to be disrupted.
Thank you, Dave. We're going to talk about Web 3 in a few minutes. Pierre-Yves, you are far from a risk of disruption, are you?
Yeah, this is the thing that everybody is saying in each company until they get disrupted. So we have the chance of some of the complexity of the business of spirits, where you have a lot of barriers, regulations, etc., which make it super complex to scale. Now we are seeing some signs, and in fact, the way we are addressing is to be prepared. So first we are having some sensors we are putting, so we are moving a little down what we call the road to consumer, because historically we've been selling only to retailers, distributors. So we have some direct to consumer companies in the group. We failed a lot in that area, but now we've learned after 15 years of trialing. And so, for example, I don't know if some of you are based in Paris, we have a store called Drinks & Co, which is just next to Saint-Lazare. And it's really good to have that premium store there, which is selling not only Pernod Ricard brands, but the whole, we actually have the best offer of Paris in terms of spirits. And here, for example, we are detecting that the no alcohol category is starting to grow. It's already 15% of the sales of the store, and actually it's a differentiation. So people go there for parties where some of the people don't want to have alcohol, and you have really nice cocktails, which are exactly the mirror of the alcohol-based cocktail. So this is one of the examples where we are having sensors to detect the new trends, and it's also about starting to adapt new ways of working. So in the new digital projects, anyway, you have to implement the agile methodologies, otherwise it's just doesn't work. But adapting also the new ways of working is another way to prepare for potential disruption, because maybe one day is gonna come. I was discussing with L'Oréal a few years ago, who said, in fact, their initial impetus to go into digital acceleration was the disruption by the small brands, which were taking advantage of Facebook advertising being almost free. It's not the case anymore. But this could happen in some way to our industry, so we are trying to get as prepared as we can.
Thank you, Pierre-Yves.
If I could just jump in with a quick
Yes,
example
please.
as well, that I think is a great example from Pernod Ricard. Obviously, I'm an Englishman living in New York, but I realize the French make the best wine. Now, as a French company, you could see the Australians making wine and go, that'll never work, it's going to be terrible. But actually what Pernod Ricard did is they bought Jacob's Creek, and they bought, the big emerging Australian wine brand, and they headed off that disruption, because if you own it, it's not a disruption, it's a growth engine.
Correct. New type of M&A coming in, because I'm interested for that.
We've just announced 3 M&A or increased over participation this week. New tequila, new agave and Mexican products. So you have some news this week. So we are continuing. Actually, I really like your example. It's an engine for growth, and we are having startups in the spirit industry joining us because we have a good distribution network and passionate teams around the world. So for them, it's one of the best options to grow further their companies.
Thank you, Pierre-Yves. Philippe, talking about disruption, you already talked about it, but now, in your position today, what are the new challenges?
Yeah, maybe to come back on disruption, I think what is very difficult and painful for companies is to recognize that they are disrupted. If you are not, clear on that, you don't move as fast as you need. And for us, the way of, to change the culture, because if you have to move forward, you need to impact the culture and the human part of the company. And we did it by introducing, we used to be a company based on a business of private labels. So with designers, with kind of these skills. And at the end of the day, we decided to open a marketplace. So to put in our website external vendors that used to be our competitors. And for the whole company, it was maybe not very well lived, basically. At the first step, they could feel as a treason, basically. So and whenever the COVID appeared, as we said just before, they could see how clever was the move, because it was the way to be agile in this world, completely disrupted as a whole, basically. So at the end of the COVID, there is no more question. The journey was long on the cultural way, but at this step, having the feeling that you are disrupted, but you are changing your strategy and you are turning to another culture, another business, it's a very difficult journey for the human part of the company. We are not only asset, we have a human asset as well. So this is maybe another thing about disruption, and it's not this easier part of implementing a strategy against a disruption. And maybe new challenges, as I said earlier, is about keeping in the move and in the momentum of the tech transformation, because every day you can find innovation, you can find things to improve the customer journey through technologies. We have to you have to choose our battle once again. It's a permanent discussion within the company to discuss about prioritization, as Pierre-Yves said earlier. This is one of the topic, just to have the skills to do that, to make the right choice, the relevant choice about prioritization. And the second one, maybe for us, is internal to go abroad, basically to expand our business on the international scale, which are maybe the two main. And obviously, as we are still relying on our own brands, we need to invest in our brands, obviously, as well. So many challenges and looking forward the next disruption, basically.
Thank you, Philippe. Vanessa?
So I think this whole disruption conversation is interesting, because in my view it's happening at different stage. What we see coming like tomorrow is a new wave of automation. because at the back of the COVID, tech platforming, we have the big resignation that has come, which actually might be a big resignation. It might be the last wave of the baby boomers retiring, actually. And we see clients operating at 10, 20% of open positions. So de facto, the automation is going to pick up with a new generation of IoT platform. And how is it that you can create a metaverse-enabled control room with proper augmented reality, and you don't have to be everywhere, and you can be much more frugal in the way you use your resources? Or how is it that you train maintenance technicians, knowing that you have a big portion of them who are going to retire? So that's like the tomorrow's disruption. There is also a new fascinating trend around deep technology. It used to be the things that will never happen, or maybe in 30 years from now. Now, lots of people are investing on hydrogen, CO2 sink, synthetic biology. All of that is being enabled by the computing power we have around data, and how can we do massive parallel testing. We see lots of traditional players who are going there, and it's definitely going to change the value chain. And I like very much what Philip was saying. I think the question is, in this changing environment, what are the control points that you need to own? What data, what technology, where is it that you are preempting such or such topic? Because it's going to pick up and you want to be ready. And when you see, what's happened in the automotive industry, that, the regulation is drastically reshaping the automotive industry in Europe towards the unknown to a certain extent. I think the big learning is that you need to be ready around the invariance.
Vanessa, thank you. You're right. Let's talk a little bit about future, about metaverse, about Web3. David, I'm starting with you.
Yeah, so look, I'm spending my life doing presentations on Web3, metaverse, and unpacking the hype at the moment, probably about 3 a week. And I think what's really interesting is often the request for either those presentations or even to do the work is coming from CEOs. And I was chatting with a senior Nike executive recently, and we were speculating as to why this was. My view was that everyone had seen just how massively COVID had disrupted businesses, so they were prepared and thinking we need to make sure that if metaverse and Web3 is as big, we're ready. His view, actually, what I thought was more interesting was that the chief digital officer is now too busy because e-commerce used to be this little thing, and now it's a huge part of everyone's sales. But what I would say to people, I kind of think it's very much a both and world. It's both the most overhyped technology I've ever seen in my life, but it's also the technology that I think will change the world the most in the next 10 years. And for those people who are cynics, firstly, you may be right, but what I would say is, when the world's biggest media company has changed its name to Meta, when the world's second biggest company has said it's the future of work and has bought Activision Blizzard in the biggest deal in the history of technology, when the world's biggest sports company, Nike, have bought Artifact, when the world's biggest gaming company, Electronic Arts, have said it's the future of gaming, when the world's biggest companies are saying that this is the future, you personally might think it's stupid, but professionally, you probably have to have a strategy. And I think the two big mistakes we always make, and I launched Australia's first ever internet agency back in 1998. We had 2 amazing years. The .com collapse happened, and everyone, oh, that's the end of the internet then, isn't it? And actually, obviously, it wasn't the end of the internet. And I was listening to the back end of the crypto conversation. And look, I bought crypto 6 or 7 years ago. It may well become an enormous thing in the future, but it also might not. And I think, there was a great quote that if 2022 is 1999, crypto is pets.com, and the metaverse is the internet. And I think the two big mistakes we make is we judge the future based on today. So today, glasses are crap, Google glasses, Snap glasses, but that doesn't mean to say they won't change the world in the next 10 years. And I'd bet that 10 years from now, we don't use mobile phones anymore. We're all wearing glasses. And I think the other thing is we don't learn from history. A stupid example, but I was really annoyed coming back from San Francisco the other day because I didn't have Wi-Fi in the plane. If you'd have told me 10 years ago I'd have had Wi-Fi in a plane, I'd have said, don't be stupid, that will never be a thing. So I guess the way I'd sum it up is, we're talking about digital transformation here. You know, how many of us wish we'd started our digital transformation later? I think the answer is probably no one. And with everything that's coming with the metaverse and Web3, you actually have the opportunity to start your digital transformation earlier. Now, to be clear, 99.9% of businesses, it will have zero impact on their share price and their financial results in the next 12 months. But if you don't start putting your toe in the water 5 years from now, when it's a huge thing, you're having to play catch up and you've been disrupted.
Pierre-Yves, no impact on Pernod Ricard's share price thanks to metaverse on NFT?
Probably not yet. So our approach, we are quite pragmatic company. So of course we see the same potential, and it's a little like the iPhone. Is the amount of money that gets poured into that new technology, which made the iPhone really nice because of all the apps which are developed. The same for the metaverse. It's what content will be actually developed, or the things that will be produced for that environment that will make it worth something. So for us, concretely, in fact, we like to move on things that bring something to the company. So we've identified 2 use cases for us, which we've already started to explore. One is the exposure of our brands on the metaverse, and to make it, I would say, profitable and with a good return on investment, we are bridging with the real world. So for example, we created a full experience called Absolute.land recently. And the way to make it profitable is actually to have the free press around it that paid for the whole investment, because there was still, I think it's 20,000 people actually visiting the platform, so it's quite small for that brand, but the return on investment was really good in terms of free press, because we were one of the first movers. The other project we have started, a use case. This one we think is a really concrete one and will have potentially an impact on the share price at some stage, is that we have people around the world which are collecting or trading really high-level bottles of whiskies or casks of aged whiskies. And we've started to sell some bottles thanks to the NFTs. So the way it works is that the buyer buys and receives the NFT. So we've sold, for example, a bottle of Royal Salute for $35,000 recently, and the owner can resell the NFT. So it's much easier than to ship a bottle. You have a lot of complexity in terms of taxes, import duties, and even the bottle could be broken. So they can resell the NFT or decide to burn it and to receive in a few days the actual bottle, which is stored in a really secure place. So this is a business where we think there is a business case, and we are working on developing it in a wider scale. So these are for us concrete examples that we are moving on, and this allows us to start moving forward, learning. For example, we are learning about the way to secure the wallets, the approvals, how in a corporate world you manage the cryptos, etc. So it's really good because it's embarking our legal, financial teams and also marketing teams in the journey, but not too fast, because I fully agree that this is probably the highest hype we've had in a number of years, as David was mentioning. So it's the way we're working in Pernod Ricard, so pragmatic, moving forward, but identifying real benefits in the short term.
Very clear, Pierre-Yves. And for you, Philippe, what is the business case you have in mind talking about metaverse?
To be frank, I won't be the first to go on metaverse, and it's already the case. I would have begun maybe before. I'm part of the majority to be late. I would say that, as I said, I rely on a tech strategy, basically, and we did not identify a metaverse as a priority today. We are still looking for business cases, and I have to say that as a CEO, as you mentioned, I have to have a strategy, but I'm not sure that I'm the best one to elaborate it on metaverse, and I rely a lot on younger generation, and it's a topic that I would say, delegate to a group of young executives, because I think they are native on that and they are maybe much more, I would say, relevant on that. This is the first, I think, idea we have on that and implementation. And the other one is the area where they are investigating. It's about basically on our DNA. One of our DNA is to showcase and to display our products to inspire people. And I think that the metaverse is a good way to do it on a quite immersive experience. And remember that we used to rely on a big book. A big book is 1,500 pages. And maybe that we found with metaverse the successor of the big book that we used to we are trying to forget, but maybe we will have it again with metaverse.
Thank you, Philippe. Vanessa, please help me to conclude on the metaverse on this session.
Oh my God, I mean, it should be an opening rather. I think what I find fascinating about the metaverse discussion is that I think we have to understand, as Philippe is saying, what's the aspiration of the new generation. When you see that, 75% of the 10 to 25 years old spend their time on Roblox or the equivalent, you may wonder, what is it that they do? Why are they on Roblox? The reality is that they are developing new habits in terms of driving the transactions, driving the relationships. They do believe, because they were born this way, that the Bitcoin can only go up, even if it's been like a little bit, not so in such a good shape. In a few years, it's been multiplied by several thousands. So it seems to them as something that's really clear, really safe, and really promising. And so I think we need to understand what those consumers are going to do. And there'll be great disruptions. I mean, when you think about mobility, one could very well think that if I'm going to work in the metaverse, if I'm equipped, with the glasses and everything that's been prepared by the Microsofts of the world, given that we've had COVID, started working remote and so on, maybe I don't have to drive to the city anymore. And in such case, it's going to not only disrupt the mobility industry, this we know, but also it's going to change real estate, because the prices are driven by the proximity to where you have to go. And if you don't have to go where you used to go, it's going to completely change where you want to actually live in the physical world. So I think there are so many implications. What's exciting is that it's just the beginning. So we should keep our eye open, and I very much like Pierre-Yves' approach to go with a few use cases, learn how it is to deal with crypto in the corporate world. That must be quite a challenge on a daily basis. And I think we all have to go on to this journey.
Thank you, Vanessa. It's just the beginning. Frédéric, is it just the beginning?
Yes, definitely it is just the beginning, no matter what, and that's for sure. Thank you very much. This panelist was very inspiring. And thank you all. Now it's time to jump into the Q&A session. And there is a lot of questions, isn't it, Bruno? Please. It's right here. Here. You should know him from now since the beginning.
Bruno Gall, Natixis. You all had some very interesting and strong comments about the need to kill legacy businesses. But if we take it forward, doesn't this mean that corporate governance and potentially board memberships should be reviewed and potentially board members fired and replaced by tech savvies?
Who's taking this one? David.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think at a big picture level, we've just been talking about Web 3. Look at Web 1, Web 2. Those of us who remember Web 1, who were the huge players? It was MySpace and Yahoo and AOL and, what was the hardware? It was Nokia and BlackBerry and Dell. And back then, those companies were the absolute stars. We don't talk about too many of them in Web 2. And in fact, the only one who's kind of hung in there is Microsoft. And I think it's highly likely the big players in Web3 aren't going to be, and it might sound odd to say this, but it's not going to be Apple and Google and Facebook, and I think Microsoft will be there, to be honest, but I think the others won't be. So if you subscribe to that logic that the size and scale of change that's happening within companies, then yeah, absolutely, you need to change your board governance. That's not to say that it's not about throw out all of the people who are expert in the legacy business, because that probably won't end well either. But I think diverse teams do better, and whether that's gender, race, or just expertise. And so have a diverse board, have people who are complete experts in Web3 and blockchain, and have people who are absolute experts in what your kind of core business is.
Yeah, I see an evolution in the board. So recently we had already a board member which challenged me significantly when I took the job, and more recently we had a new one, and she had pretty good questions in terms of details of organization, etc. So I believe that board members, especially companies which are prone to be disrupted or should start looking into new technologies, should have at least a few board members that are tech savvy, but not only tech savvy, because in fact the key part in all we are doing, I see in Pernod Ricard, is to be the bridge between the tech part and the business, which is still 95-99% of the revenues, and is that kind of profiles which can make the bridge that it was said in the previous roundtable, are okay to spend a few hours or looking at YouTube videos to understand a little better the cryptos. So for me, the key part is the curiosity. It's people which are still eager to learn because things are moving super fast. You need to learn every month, every week on what's happening to separate the hype from the potential real impact. And I think for me, that's the type of people that are needed at the board.
All right, thank you very much. Pierre, come on. I know. So any questions? That's great news, you know what? No, but if you have any questions, come on. There's so many things I'm sure you want to ask. Please, yes.
I have a question on the financing impact of that transformation. So,
who are you? Can you introduce yourself?
Yes. Patrick Rouvillois. My question is very much, we talked a lot about HR and the need to find the right talent and the great resignation and what that meant. What about the amount of investment that's required to do that transformation, and how to actually find the funding when your market capitalization is not at par with your disruptors?
You want me to choose who is going to answer this one?
Poof.
Vanessa, you want to start?
Okay, I could try. If I can decompose a little bit the question, I think there is a question about what do we fund? And back to the previous question, and this is why board members need to be relatively tech savvy. I still see at clients that there are big discussions about should we build this plant for 50 million, 100 million, 150 million. And at the same time, not even for metaverse or whatever, well, let's go for the 100 million, project for CRM, and let CDO, CIO figure it out with the head of marketing. So I think it's very important to have a good appreciation of what we're talking about. And I also think that sometimes everyone gets a little bit mesmerized about, oh, is it in Azure? What's the data lake and so on? And sorry to, go back to the nitty-gritty details of it, but there is a lot of money at stake. And so being able to navigate what we're talking about seems essential to me. Now, I think to Patrick's question, the challenge we will have ahead of us will be how much do we invest in the digital assets? So investment on data, infrastructure, is everything on the cloud, and how do we get organized to deal with cyber security of the crypto, given that there is quantum computing coming up. And so what does it mean? So you have those investments in the digital assets, But there is also all the question about how do you pivot the physical assets. When you have a brownfield install base, can you distribute IoT sensors to make it a smarter install base? So the way I see it is that there is going to be a massive volume of quote-unquote things to do. It's still not fully governed. One could very well think a little bit about the Far West. So being able to have clear legibility, and probably, Patrick, at the back of your question, there is also what are the frameworks? Can we bring some scoring, some grading to guide the investors? And are those investments really worth it? Or is it like, you know, smoke screens, and so we're not really sure? How do we bring that legibility is definitely something that we should all focus on.
Well, for me, this brings a really good question that we are addressing in Pernod Ricard in the following way, is that every new investment needs a business case. Even on innovation, so it's a more potential business case, but we need to have one with a probability of success. And for example, we've made significant investment in artificial intelligence, but the whole projects, all of them are based each on a business case that we are following up during the implementation, and this rolls down to the actual teams working on the project, because each new functionality, each new development has its own small business case. So what is the additional value I'm going to deliver in Germany, US, China, compared to the level of number of days of investment we will have. So this way, this helps a lot, first the initial investment, but then the ongoing investment, and everybody knowing that the finance is on board, is actually checking the return on investment on what is done, helps to continue and to bring everybody along the way on the transformation. And it helps also on the marketing case. So for example, building absolute land on the metaverse. Initially, we looked at, okay, by its own, it's going to cost much more than the number of people we are going to have actually on the platform. So from the beginning, we actually added an amount of budget to make sure that we would amplify the event in the traditional way, so in the Web 2 way. And that helped having, at the end of the day, a good business case for that marketing investment. So for me, the financing, if you're thinking from a business case all the time and actually following the actuals versus the business case, it helps to get the fund. It creates the trust within the company, because you have the people which in any company you have the early adopters saying, why are we not yet on the metaverse? You have the people who say, let's see, and people who say, no way, we shouldn't be there. And this way of doing things helps to bring everybody along the way. So skeptics are saying, at least I'll have my word, and people will see that it's not profitable. The people in the middle will say, okay, I will take the decision based on that, and the first ones are saying, yeah, this is a really smart way of moving innovation forward. So that's, I would say, the way we've identified a way to solve that investment, which is not that easy, because sometimes we are talking about big amounts.
Thank you, Pierre-Yves. David, Philippe, you want to rebound on that one?
Yeah, look, I think...
Sorry.
Oh, you go first.
Go ahead. Now, for me, the question is funding every opportunity that tech or digital brings you. It's impossible. So you have to build a strong team, a strong executive to be able to sort things, basically, because you have to make choice. And as a CEO, it's impossible to make all these choices. You make it by chance. So you really need to have a very rational organization to evaluate and sort all the opportunities that is at stake, because every day, every moment, I receive some requests to find a new project, or to grab an opportunity. The reality is that you are not able to find everything. So be prepared to sort and to choose. And it's in a way, we need to change the board. Maybe we need to be inspired by other things, as I said, with young people, to enlighten your choice. For me, this is the key point. We need to be able in the position to choose, and as a CEO, you have to prepare and to organize that.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's about making the right choices. If you don't fund these things, you won't have a future. So number one, I think it's critical. Number two, it's about managing your shareholder expectations. I mean, whether you think that the Facebook rebrand to Meta was a good idea or a bad idea, he spelled out very clearly that it's going to cost them 10 billion a year. So their shareholders now know that it's going to cost 10 billion a year. And I think thirdly, timing is everything. There's a great piece this morning in the information that's basically saying that the legacy businesses are trading at higher levels than the disruptors now. So, if you're a legacy business, profit has suddenly become fashionable again. So it's a really good time to start doing things where it may not have been 2 years ago.
All right. And
All right. Thank you, David.
yes, we'll close this third round table. Thank you very much, Vanessa. Thank you very much. A big round of applause, please. Yes. Thank you, David. Thank you, Philippe. Merci beaucoup, Pierre-Yves. Merci infiniment, Alain, for this round table.